Okay, welcome to the Future Fiction Academy's 2K per day challenge. In this series of videos, a member of the Future Fiction Academy will walk you through how we use AI to get our 2,000 words per day in. So each video will be as long as it takes to get those words in, and we'll walk you through our process as we're doing it. In this series of videos, I'm going to be using Rexy, which is the software that is available to members of the Future Fiction Academy. If you'd like to try it out, jump in. We do have a new 7-day free trial where you can try out all these features. You can find the link in the description below. If you don't choose to use Rexy, or if you're not a member of the Future Fiction Academy, you can do everything I'm doing directly in any of the LLM models. Just Rexy makes a shortcut so it goes faster, but I can show you how we're doing it step by step along the way. So I am in the middle of a dark fantasy romance, which here is all my information that I'm using for it inside of Notion, which is how I plan out a lot of my books. Book 1 is already complete. I'm in the editing phase for that right now. And currently working on book 2. I'm about 9 or 10 chapters in, I believe, with about 25,000 words. So we're going to be picking up from there. I already have a lot of the back information here. So here we can see in my book 2, I've already figured out the synopsis, the chapters, the settings, the writing style, and a bit of the outline. I'm a plantser halfway between pantser and plotter, so I don't figure out the whole outline at first. I kind of work chapter by chapter, scene by scene. Maybe I work a couple ahead, but at the beginning, I don't have everything set up by any means. And I also have the story so far here, which is the entire story, all 9 or 10 chapters, whatever I'm up to, that I've already written here. And let's see. Yep, I've finished 9 chapters, so I'm on chapter 10. So here inside Rexy, I've already set things up. I've already loaded this project, which is this Notion page, into Rexy, so it has all of that information. Here in the Notion slot, like I said, it has all the genre synopsis, all that information I had already figured out. And then here is my blackjack. Is rather than asking either Claude or ChatGPT, asking them one prompt, give me a set of characters. Great, now give me a setting. Great, now give me this. Rather than doing that as 4 or 5 different prompts, I can automate that using Rexy. I plan out my prompts ahead of time, and then it can just rapid fire do them one right after the other. So here, what I'm doing, it's a 4-step process. So I have an idea, a general brain dump, a couple sentences about what I want to do in the next chapter. So what I'm going to do is give all that information to, I'm going to use, for the first one, GPT-4o to make a plan to write that scene. I like the way GPT-4o makes plans better. Then I'm going to switch to Claude, specifically Claude 3 Sonnet version, in order to write the scene. So I'm going to make a plan to write the scene, actually write the scene. Then we're going to take a look at some specific elements, make a plan to edit the scene, and then I'm going to have it edit the scene. We're going to do all 4 of those steps right in a row. So we're going to switch over to WordBanger here, which is how we do that. And down here you can see, because I have this blackjack set up, which is all of my prompts all ready to go. Here's my first prompt. I have to click bang them. So that brought in all my prompts. Here's my first prompt to make the plan, and I'm going to select the first slot for ChatGPT. Then next, I'm going to write the scene using Claude. Third, I'm going to make a plan to edit the scene, and I think I'm going to use ChatGPT for this again. Or excuse me, GPT-4o for this again. And now for the fourth one, I'm going to use that revision plan to actually write the scene. And I'm going to use Claude again for that. Make sure I have that all correct. Perfect. So I have all of my Notion slots in here, which is my basic story information, my blackjack information, which is my prompts, And then my S slots. These are temporary slots, which I can write into the prompts, which I have done. So my S slot is simply going to be what happens next. It's my brain dump for the next scene, since I don't really have a fleshed out outline at this point. And I've already brainstormed this before I started this video. So I'm just going to copy. Like I said, this is just a stream of consciousness. Malachi's investigating his dungeon. He's enraged. He's starting to suspect people. Again, let's see about how many words this is. About 200 words worth of just rambling on what I think should happen in the scene. And I just need to put this information here. So I just copy and paste it here. And what happens is, in my prompt, I've said, now let's make a plan for what will happen in this next scene. And then I tell it, pull in the information that I just dropped in here. We're going to run these 4 prompt sequences right in a row, starting at number 1. So let's go ahead and bang. Here's our scene writing instructions. The ruined dungeons, which is perfect. Has the characters that are going to be in here. My H2, one of my love interests, the antagonist, and some just general guards and prisoners. First person present tense from Malachi's point of view, which is exactly what I want. It's now given me the main events that's going to happen. And part of the reason it's giving all of this so nicely is I gave it a template in my prompt. I said, please make a plan for how to write this story, include all of this information. Please fill in this template. So now we have what the writing style should be, the dialogue overview, conflict and tension points. And what I found that does is it forces the AI or the LLM to consider all of these different aspects when filling in the scene or the details of the scene. And then when presented with all these particulars, it does a much better job of writing the scene. And here we go. Here's actually writing the scene. Stalk through the shattered remnants of my dungeon. There was just a explosion in the previous scene inside of the dungeon. The other love interest had unwittingly given this rebellion, these people working against the male love interest, everything they needed to plan out this attack. The one love interest is starting to suspect the other one. One's feeling guilty because they unwittingly gave this information. And then Theron is the antagonist who is trying to pit the two against each other and take power from the male love interest. I think it's doing a pretty good idea. Could stand a little more dialogue, but there is a lot of internal dialogue going on. Perhaps he's right. I'm tired and soul sick from the constant demands of ruling. I cannot trust him. I cannot trust no one. Decision made. I reach out and take the scroll. Okay. And if she's innocent, we shall see. So now he is going to see the H1, the female love interest. Forget which LLM I used, but I did use AI when brainstorming this, and it came up with the name Lyra, which, for those of you who use AI often, know that is a very common overused name. It is one it will commonly throw out, so I will change that. The spirit wasn't on me for what the name should be. But at any rate, so here is discrepancies. So I had it look at discrepancies between what our plan was to write and what it actually wrote. For those of you who know Claude and how it goes off the rails. So this is a fail-safe against that. And then improvements for how we can improve the characterizations, showing more rage and vulnerability, more dialogue, conflict, and how we can incorporate these changes. And now it is writing the revised scene. Okay, I can already see there's more dialogue, which is excellent. That's what I would like. Oh, and it's finished. But now, in that time, I didn't even check how long it was. It has finished making a plan for the scene, writing the scene, making a plan for revising, and then revising the scene. If I click on here, all of this is automatically saved inside of my Notion. If we go back here, this is originally the tab I showed you. This is my This is the series page for this whole series. Rexy can both take information out from here and put it in. And here's the auto write page that has, so here's the most recent ones right here. We made a plan to write the scene. We wrote the scene, made a plan for the outline or revision, and then we wrote the revision. And then here are all 4 of those in one. And what I like about this one, having all 4 in one, is, so here's the scene instructions. If there was something it changed that I liked better in the original, or that I didn't want changed in the revision, it's all right here. I can cut and paste them together a little bit. And we actually have a new tool coming soon for the Future Fiction Academy that will make that even easier. But let's just go with the revised scene. Let's see, I have a total of 2,905 words. So that's perfect. That's a little long, but I bet if we go to the end here, it's not too bad as far as Claude usually goes. But again, for those of you who are familiar with using Claude, or for those of you who are not, Claude tends to like to end every scene with what we here at the FFA called bowitis. Just tying everything up in a nice, neat bow. It's these weird declarations. We're going to make this out together. We're going to stand here looking out into our future, and I know I can make it, Gods be damned, or something like that. It's every single chapter ends like that. So I usually go straight to the end of the chapter and just cut all that nonsense out immediately, adding information like end on a cliffhanger, or this will flow into the next scene, giving Claude that indication that don't wrap it up in a bow sometimes helps. But again, I found it easier just to scroll and cut. So this is my revised scene. So I do like how it starts with some sensory details, acrid smoke. Again, this is right after there was a bombing. H1 and H2 were together. The 2 love interests were together when the bombing happened. He immediately sent her away. She let something slip. That made him suspect her. And now he's going to actually investigate what happened. It was a stench of blood and burnt flesh, is thick in the air. Cloying miasma. So let's ask AI for simplify language. There we go. Overpowering smell. Perfect. Cloying miasma is a little too purple, or not what I'm looking for. It's an overpowering smell that makes my stomach churn. Perfect. Rage at the audacity of this attack. Okay, so again, we see the rage building. We see this internal monologue where he's working himself up, and then the dialogue breaking in when the unknown antagonist at this point comes in. I might change obsidian. I'm actually just going to mark this for later. There's nothing wrong with the word obsidian. Change this to a yellow background. There's nothing wrong with obsidian, but I do find, because I use the term dark romance in the genre, or dark fantasy romance, it tends to take that literally sometimes and makes everything out of glittering obsidian. It's very dark, as in the mood, the stone, everything is dark. And that's not necessarily what I'm going for every minute of the day. So just with the prompting language I used, I do find obsidian is overused. So I'm going to flag that just so I know when I go back to read a few chapters together, has obsidian been used too much? But in this context, in a destroyed dungeon, it is very applicable to have obsidian and it to be very dark and musty. So the damage is extensive, dozen cells breached. One of the guards, all that emerges is a wet bubbling rasped. He dies. And what I'm doing in this pass, I'm not looking to make it perfect. I will have a final read through, even before the proofread, a final read through just to make sure all the different chapters hang together nicely. So I'm not looking to make it necessarily perfect right now. What I am looking for is that the writing style is generally pretty good. So I want to take out some of those flowery cloying miasma, take out some of those flowery phrases that just don't fit in, or that I don't like. And I'm trying to make sure all the plot elements are there properly. So I would change anything that doesn't fit in with the plot, anything I don't want to carry out to any of the other scenes, because my prompting will involve taking this, we call it validated, as a lightly edited scene or a mostly edited scene to make sure it's good enough for the AI to continue the story after that. This was planned, orchestrated. The trader. Actually, I like this so far. Again, I might choose to change up the language a little bit, but it is the right tone I'm going for. It is the right overall shape and theme, and it is all the events I want. I do want that rage. I want him in the ruined dungeon, trying to figure out answers, trying to see if his love interest, Lyra, is indeed involved, and to have the antagonist come in, and this is the first time he's really trying to take advantage of the situation. So that's all here. Okay, so they're having dialogue back and forth about that. We have internal dialogue. Very tempting prospect indeed. Perhaps he's right. I'm tired, so very tired. Decision made. I reach out and take the scroll, breaking the seal. Sweeping transfer power and authority needed to the rebel threat. Consider yourself Lord Inquisitor, old friend. Again, you can see the old friend. I wanted to stress that, or I put it in the prompt to stress that he, the main character, Malachi, does not see this antagonist as an antagonist yet. It's very cloak and dagger at the moment, which is why Claude is putting in so many old friends, but just snip a couple of those out. Okay, so you can see right here it says it's time I've paid a visit to the little wildflower in the castle's depths. Oh, Lord. So that's another one of the Claudisms. It's time I paid a visit to the little wildflower currently wilting in the castle's depths and to see what petals still remain to be stripped away. Okay, that all goes. But that is also a good point. As I said before, this 2800 is a long scene. Not too long, but I do have some extra to work with. At this point, he's finished in the dungeon. The antagonist has come in, gotten what he's wanted. The scene's over. And then Claude wrote this little bit extra going back. It's interesting. I'm not sure if I want this or not. So this is also saved somewhere else. What I might do in this part, all he's doing, he's leaving the dungeon, he's walking away, gritting his teeth, pondering about, has she deceived me? He walks up to her door. I don't even know where he goes. Basically, it's just him walking around and brooding. I don't necessarily want that. I think I just want to cut it off at the end of the dungeon scene. We don't need to walk around and feel our feelings quite yet. Or feel this many feelings. I'm going to just delete that all. And now we're down to 2300, which is a better, stronger scene, I think. And still about the length I want. So that's perfect. So now I'm going to just take this scene, come over to my chapters. So now I have chapter 10 from Malachi's point of view. Gonna open it up in here. Just pasted that whole chapter in. I can double check my word count, 2307. I add that here. Status is validated. So I haven't, the in progress I use for when I'm actually going through my full developmental editing pass. After I get to the end of the story, I usually find I have to add more events in, more foreshadowing, something else that I missed because I didn't have the whole outline in. But right now, this is validated as in good enough for the writing process to continue. And now I have this set up in Notion. I have a summary of the scene that happened, what happened with the characters, which it might be a little too violent for Notion. Does not allow content that is harmful or illegal. I meant this to be chapter 10, not chapter 1. And there we go. There's my 2,307 words for the day at less than half an hour. Probably with all my talking, about 20 minutes. And if you'd like to dive deeper into this process we're using, we've worked out prompting and workflow processes and just education for all types of writers. Not everyone wants to write a whole scene at once like I do. Some people do. Some people want it for more brainstorming or marketing. We dive into all of these topics inside of the education side of the Future Fiction Academy. Then you also get access to Rexy, which is our cutting-edge AI writing tool, as you can see, that simplifies the writing process with AI, but leaves a lot more of the control in your hands. If you're interested, we have a 7-day free trial down below. Take a look, check it out, see if Rexy's something that jives with you, see if the education side helps. And then hopefully we'll see you in labs. Bye.